Hello, this is Holly Chantal, the president of thelandofbrand.com, and you have reached the Land of Brand Laboratory, or as I like to call it, the LOBoratory. And if you've never joined us before, we meet every second and fourth Wednesday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, and we talk about different subjects that relate to your brand. And this is a free community call. It's free to join. You can go to thelandofbrand.com to subscribe for reminders, but we always post our replays on the blog. And while we do post replays on the blog, I love seeing you guys in person because that's where you can ask questions, add your own input, and we can talk a little bit instead of it just being me talking to a camera, which, as you guys know, if you've ever done a webinar or recorded video, can be a little awkward. So let's go ahead and dive in. Today's topic is an important one. It's what to do when your website gets hacked, other than cry inconsolably. So that's really what you do first, is you cry. But then we're going to talk about what do you do afterwards to clean up the mess and prevent it. And prevention is really the best policy here. So all the preventative things are things you can do now to keep your site from getting hacked in the first place, because that obviously would be the ideal scenario. So just so you guys know how to use Zoom, there is a chat box as well as a Q&A box. You guys are welcome to talk to each other, ask questions, that kind of thing during the presentation. At the end, if I see that there's any questions for me, I will happily answer those. And if you guys have any topics that you'd like to see in the future, you can email holly@thelandofbrand.com and send me those. So the big picture topics today are the current state of hosting and other hacking risk factors, who you going to call when you wake up to your site being down, that's never fun, and then cleaning up and preventing future hacks. So how do you clean up the mess and how do you keep this from happening again? So cheap hosting used to be the bomb. I used to be able to get hosting for a couple bucks a month. I started off with HostMonster, which is on this list here. I actually still have an account with them that has some of my lesser domains. Obviously, the Land of Brand is not on it anymore. But literally, it was like $3.95 a month, which is why I haven't shut it down yet. But what's happened is hosting has really gone downhill because there are so many people with their own websites now and so many companies competing to be the cheapest. What they're doing is they're cramming all of these websites onto shared servers. So that creates kind of an unstable scenario. Plus, if one person's site gets hacked, it could wipe out the entire server. And if we're talking about thousands of websites being on a server, boom, thousands of websites go bye-bye. That's not what we really want here. And if you look at this list, these are just the common ones that I hear from my clients using, but there are probably hundreds of hosts that are obviously not listed here that fall in the same category. It's when we're looking at the basic hosting or the like the economy hosts versus managed hosting or premium hosting, that kind of thing. The first 4 companies that are listed here are all they've all been bought by the same company. And they are probably the most notorious right now for just really sucking when it comes to security and being hacked. So if you have any of those 4, or if you want, I forget what the name of the company that owns them is. Maybe someone does, it's funny because I looked it up yesterday to get the names of these, but I can't remember it. So if anyone knows what the name of the owner of these hosting companies is, feel free to post it, because you can search what other hosting companies they own and see if yours falls under them if it's not listed here. GoDaddy is not owned by that same company, but GoDaddy still is just not my favorite host for a variety of reasons, and one of them is security. So obviously where your site is hosted is really, really important to making sure that it is secure. So let's talk more about what you can do. Sorry, my baby woke up upstairs. Okay, so what other security holes might there be other than just your hosting being just really jam-packed and crammed and unstable. And I will talk about, what host to look for in hosting a little bit later if you guys have questions about that. So first of all, your WordPress not being up to date. This is something that's really easy to kind of let fall by the wayside. You always get that little notification at the top when there is a new version of WordPress. But here's the catch. You can click the button to keep it updated, but depending on how long it's been since your theme was built and who built it and whether or not the theme is up to date, at some point or another, your website's probably going to break just from clicking that button, which is why so many of us don't click that button, because we're afraid of that bringing our website down. The way around that is to hire someone to manage your site. So that they can bring it back up if something breaks. Always making sure you do a backup when you do an update. Basically, you need someone on your team that's going to be able to manage the security of your site. Plugins not being up to date, same thing, same as WordPress. So when plugins and WordPress are updating, what they're usually doing is patching up security holds or incompatibilities that allow hackers into your site. So that's the bulk of what those updates are. Just like your operating system needs to be updated to keep hackers out, same thing with your website. It's kind of like your website's operating system. Even the plugins that are deactivated and even the themes that are deactivated, just because they're not active on your site doesn't necessarily mean they're not opening security holes where hackers can get in. And when I'm talking hackers, I'm not talking about like a specific person sitting down to attack you. These things are all automated. It's just like, a virus going through someone's email and getting into a bunch of different computers. There are bots out there that are just taking sites down and, for the heck of it. Though there are some, brute force attacks where, there are specific people trying to get into specific sites, but, Joe Schmoes like us, probably not cool enough to be hacked by an actual person. So all you want to do at this point is just keep your site as secure as possible, and keeping it up to date will keep you from being susceptible to known issues. So unsecure plugins. So not all plugins are created equal. Some plugins, even if they're up to date, so up to date meaning that there isn't a newer version that you don't have yet, doesn't necessarily mean they are up to date with, the standards of the day, which change constantly. So you might have a plugin that is up to date and compatible with your website, but it hasn't been updated in a couple years, because the only reason why it's compatible is because it just means that it's not going to frig with anything else on your site. It doesn't necessarily mean that, it's been kept up to date with standards and security holes, all of that. So I recommend installing as few plugins as possible. This is my developer's pet peeve, if anyone's worked with us. When we log into a site and there are 100 plugins that, a lot of them are doing the same things, a lot of them are conflicting with each other. Plugins slow down your site, they open up security holes, and a lot of the things that plugins do can be done by a good developer in a much cleaner, more efficient, and more secure way. So this just goes down to, having a really quality website in general. So having a programmer on hand and a WordPress developer build your site to make sure that everything, is going to work for you in the long run. So silly things like having your username be admin. That's how, if you did the click button push of installing your WordPress installation, admin's the default, and hackers know that. So you want to make sure that you change your username. Passwords, really insecure passwords. I installed, my WordPress years ago, so I had a 5-digit password because now that's not really allowed anymore. But make sure that you're keeping your passwords up to date. All right, I might need to go grab the baby. I am sorry. I will do one more slide and then I have to go just 2 seconds to run and grab him. He usually sleeps till 12:30. So when this happens to you, so what do you do when you're hacked? First of all, contact your host. A lot of hosting companies automatically are keeping backups of your site so that you can just restore it to the last restore point. So contact your hosting company, see if they can restore it. If you're not positive they're keeping backups now, call them now. It might be an additional couple bucks a month. It is definitely worth it. And there are also, other ways you can work out to back up your site, but the hosting is usually pretty easy to set up, and it's not something you have to manage yourself. So do that. There's also companies like Secureye, and there's another one that I couldn't find the name of that we've used before, but they offer cleanup services as well as ways to keep your site more secure. We found that the cost of cleanup is usually about $250. That's usually where it starts, which might sound like a lot of money, but when your website is your primary source of business and your face of your company, $250 to get it back up is a small price to pay, especially to get it up right. Do not let someone work around and just do some like hacking fixes themselves, because you're not really securing your site. You're just putting a band-aid. You're putting a band-aid on a gash in your site, basically, and that's not going to solve the problem. So find a security company to clean up the site. There's companies that specialize in this. And just so you guys know, I am not a security expert. So there are going to be a lot of things that I'm not even aware of. So if this is a big concern for you, find a company that specializes in this and follow their recommendations. What I'm sharing with you today is just stuff that I've learned in my experience working with sites. Client sites that have gotten hacked, that kind of thing. This is kind of like what we've learned along the way to make sure, to help make sure that it doesn't happen to more people. And last but not least, if you don't have a backup, so let's say, the site is essentially gone and you can't get it back online. At that point, you're kind of at a point where you have to start over. So contact your web person, see if they at least have the design archived. We usually keep our themes archived for at least a couple years. So, at least the design is there. And then you can also do a Google search for like archived versions of your site. And sometimes you can actually see with the page content that used to be on your site from a year ago or, last month or that kind of thing. Google keep snapshots of your site in some crazy database. So you can use that sometimes to regenerate some of the content that might be missing, so you don't have to actually write it from scratch, and that's usually pretty helpful. All right, I'm going to come back in 1 minute. I'm just going to go grab him really quick. So you're probably going to lose me because I'm on a Bluetooth headset. So I'll be right back. Da, da, da. All right, I should be coming back in range. Thank you guys for being so patient. All right, I'm back. All right, if you haven't met Gavin, this is Gavin. He's 4 months old. All right, and I think, pretty sure I unmuted myself, so if you guys can't hear me, let me know. All right, so once you get the site back up, what do? You plug the holes. That means update everything. Hire someone to do your WordPress updates, your plugin updates. Make sure that your theme is kept up to date. So if you're using a theme framework, update the framework. If you're using a child theme, sorry, I just ran up and down the stairs really fast, now I'm out of breath. If you're using a child theme, make sure that it's up to today's standards. So, if your site was built 2 years ago, chances are there's some updates that need to be done to the code. So, right now we're working on sites that we built back in 2011. And we've done some updates since then on those sites. But even simple things like their tables are not HTML5 like certified. So we're having to go back and just do like redo their tables to make sure that they're mobile responsive in the right ways, that kind of thing. What a lot of people don't realize is that your website is an ongoing investment. It's not something that you're just going to have built and never have to touch again. Your website is very important to your business, so it's something that you want to budget for month to month, year to year, and keeping it up to date, keeping the code up to snuff, and treating it like the asset it is for your business. Install security plugins. iThemes, I think their plugin is free. Someone can verify that for me. iThemes has a good security plugin that some of my clients have used, and it does take backups and that kind of thing. And then SecureEye is also a good one. That is a paid plugin, well worth it, but some hosting packages actually include it. So my site has SecureEye, but it's included in my hosting. So it's not something I ever installed or had to pay for or anything like that. It's just the hosting company that I use uses their software to protect my site from hackers. And then last but not least, set up a backup system so that if this happens again, all you have to do is click a button to deploy your old site and ta-da, it's back. So backup systems are so important. And if you want to get really cray-cray, start backing up your backup. So whenever I write an article, I do post it to the blog, but I also save it to a folder on my computer. So I have, all of my articles from the last 7 years all in a folder, so that, let's say, a catastrophe happened and my website just poof, smoke. I have a lot of the content already saved there. And that will just save you a huge headache and a huge, pit in your stomach when all that work goes down the drain. The other thing you can do is hide your WordPress installation. And this is for the really paranoid folk. But most of us have our WordPress installed on the root domain. So what that means is that to try to log into your site, it's just, the Land of Brand /WP admin. But you can actually hide your WordPress installation on a subdirectory, which means that you move the installation to a different URL. So it's not, the Land of Brand /, it's something else. But it still displays as though it were on the root, if that makes sense. So it's not going to change any of the URLs on your site, but where you will be logging in will be different. And if you're familiar with WordPress, you know what I'm talking about. You need a WordPress expert to do this, because you don't want to, screw everything up. Moving URLs in the WordPress database can, usually it can throw you some curveballs sometimes. So make sure that you hire a professional to do that, and it does not take a long time, so it's not something that's going to be really expensive for you to do. But again, it's not necessarily something that I recommend. I haven't done this, but it's like if you're super paranoid, or if your site just keeps coming down, it keeps getting attacked, move it. Keep the domain, but move this installation, and that might solve your problem. So what do you look for in hosting? And I see that there's a lot of questions here, so I will get to those at the end. I just want to make sure you guys know that I'm not ignoring you. So keep them coming, and we will have a little discussion at the end. So look for what's called managed WordPress hosting. And really what I'm talking about, I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, I'm pretty much solely talking about WordPress sites, because that's what we solely deal in. So there might be other things you can do for different content management system, CMS, that's what it is. So managed WordPress hosting is a thing now. And basically it just means that it's hosting that's specifically set up for WordPress. It has special security features built in. Usually it's optimized to run WordPress sites faster. It has other bells and whistles like staging environments. Staging environments are really cool, especially if you're doing a website overhaul, or you're worried that if you've clicked that little update button that your whole site's going to come down. You can actually move your site to a staging environment, click the update button, see if it explodes, and if it doesn't, then you can make those changes live. Same thing if you're redesigning or changing some of the graphics on your site. You can move your site to the staging environment, make all of the changes, test everything as if it were a live site, and then just click a button and it moves it back to your live domain. So I love that feature, especially when clients have it. It makes things so much easier when we're doing updates later. So other things it has are auto updates. So basically you never have to click that little button at the top that says update WordPress, because it does it automatically. And it also, so it does the update, and then it will basically do a, what's the word? What is the word? A compliance check. So it just makes sure that everything is in compliance and there's no nothing conflicting with the new update. And they also do downtime monitoring. So if your site does go down, like a server blip, you know, sometimes when you go to a site and you get that like 505 error and then 15 minutes later it's gone. Those are just little server blips. So it'll tell you when that happens, just so that you can kind of monitor when your site's up and down. So if you do get an email of someone saying, you know, I went to your site, it wasn't there, but then you go to your site and it is, you'll know why. It was just because it was down for 15 minutes and it's back. Like they were just resetting the server or something. And then also sometimes there's other monitoring. So there's brute force monitoring. So if someone is if the bot is continuously trying to log in to your site, it will notify you. So like they're monitoring everything that's going on, and they'll tell you if, you know, it seems like something fishy is going on. It'll email you automatically. So this runs at a little bit more of a premium. So instead of like $3.95 a month, it's like $29 a month for one domain. That's just an example. There's a lot of different, probably different options out there. I use WP Engine, and I have a couple clients using it, and I've loved it. They have all the features that I just talked about. They're crazy fast, and $29 a month actually is not that much for everything that we're talking about. And I think it's $29 a month for one domain, but if you have multiple domains, then it's like $99 a month. What I have right now, because all of my other domains are pretty much just redirects, I don't have like multiple websites, so it doesn't make sense for me to pay, you know, to host multiple websites when I don't actually have them. So that's why I still have my host monster, which is just where all of my domains were registered back in the day, and they all forward to whatever pages I need to have them on. So I thought I had another slide in here. Another site you can check out, which I thought was on a slide, is siteground.com. It is not a site that I've used yet, but it is a site that I have done some research around, and I think that's where I'm going to move all my subdomains and some other smaller websites that I'm going to be creating at the Land of Brand for like client-facing stuff. So siteground.com I think is a little less expensive, but it has a lot of the same features. All right, so recap. Everyone is susceptible to hackers. You're not immune. It happens to the best of us. And hopefully, you know, some of these security measures and some of these preventative measures will help keep that from happening to your site. Your website is one of your most prized business assets. This is your storefront. It is the face of your business. It is the face of your brand. It is what clients are interacting with when they're not interacting with you. Primarily is your website. Your website is what helps people make decisions to hire you. So it's something that you really need to take seriously and make an investment in. So your budget needs to include your website, keeping it updated, keeping it secure, you know, keeping it fresh with content. That your website always has to be taken into account. There are obviously simple things you can do to help avoid being hacked, because it is happening now more than ever. And just having good hosting will go a long way toward helping you do that. So before I take questions, I just want to let you guys know that next meeting is September 14th at noon, and we're going to be talking about picking projects. So how can you finish 2016 with a bang? Because we're entering the fourth quarter, and you set a lot of goals at the beginning of the year. You may be on track, you may not be on track, but we can talk about what can you do from now until the end of the year to make sure that 2016 is still your best year ever. Because, you know, it ain't over till it's over. And this is just good practice to, you know, plan kind of your next 90 days out to keep you really focused and keep you moving forward in your business. So we'll kind of be doing a little taste of that in September. So let's go ahead over to some questions. Okay, so I see you guys are chatting. I don't know why it defaults to just sending your chats to me. So I see all these things and I realize you guys don't. I should have mentioned that in the beginning. So it says everything that's been typed here is just to the panelists. Is this recorded? Yes, yes, it is recorded and you will see it on the blog. It gets posted every week. Is there a way to see who does what on your site? I have several web designers and someone keeps adding a backdoor and I don't know who's doing it. I have SecureEye and I have Traffic Planet hosting. I am actually not sure. Like I said, I'm not a security expert, so I don't even know how you would open a backdoor. But if you contact your host, they may be able to see like who's there might be logs of who's logging in, or history on what's been done on the site, and maybe that will help you out. And that stinks that that's happened to you. I'm sorry. Sounds like the same person had a really bad designer and their site was held hostage. That sucks. I had that happen to me when I first started. I foolishly went with a company that cold called me. I bought a domain and they wanted to build the site for me. They ended up stealing my domain. And when I canceled with them, they were going to charge me $2,000 to get my domain back. And I ended up having to change the name of my business because when you're starting out, you really can't afford $2,000 to rebuy your domain back. So that sucked. I've had that happen, and yeah, not fun. She also said, go grab the baby. Thanks. Hidden Valley says, Gavin's adorable. What a good boy. Thank you. And then you could use Zapier to add the post into a Google Doc. Yes, you could. Very good. So there is a, for those of you that are not familiar, Zapier, Z-A-P-I-E-R, is a really neat piece of software that you can plug into different services that you use, and it basically makes them talk to each other. Another thing that does that is if this then that. That's what I use. It's a free service. Zapier is a little bit more sophisticated and hooks up to more things because it's a paid service. But check out both. So for instance, when I post to my blog, it automatically posts to my Facebook. So what this person's saying is you can set it so that when you post a blog, it also posts to Google Docs or Evernote or other pieces of the software that store information. You can actually have them hook up to each other. It's really cool. You can even hook it up so that when you take a picture with your phone, it's saved to different folders, or it's saved to, go straight to your Instagram, or however, you want to set those things up, all the way to, whenever you turn your car on, it turns the thermostat off in the house, like just crazy things. It just connects pieces of software together. So check that out, because that might be an easy way for you to basically back up everything and not have to think about it. Tawny says, Tawny answered my question about who they're owned by. So when I listed all those different hosting companies that are like economy hosting and you kind of want to stay away from them, Endurance International Group. So Endurance International Group, or EIG, is the name of the company. So if you guys do a Google search for that, you can find a list of all of the companies they own. And if you're not using one of the hosts that I just mentioned, see if yours is listed there, because they're all, even though the names are different, they're all run by the same people. And those are the ones that are seriously having issues right now. Literally, like for a while there, once a week, I was having a client come to me saying their website had been hacked because I had been referring them to using HostMonster because that's what I used for 5 years and never had a problem. So then, it went down the tubes and all of my clients now had sucky hosting. So I've been, slowly but surely moving everyone to better hosts. Michelle says, who would you recommend you use as a host? I had recommended to two companies. One is WP Engine. That is who I use, so I can vouch for them. They've had great customer service. The features are awesome, and my site is really, really fast, even though, you know, the Land of Brand is a really, really graphic heavy site. Most sites these days, because they're being loaded on mobile phones, etc., are very light. A lot of things are done more with CSS styling and colors and gradients and that kind of thing, not graphics themselves. But the Land of Brand, because our branding is so different, requires really really heavy graphics, which really slows down load times. But with WP Engine, it still loads just as fast as any other site. So I'd highly recommend them. They're a little bit on the expensive side. It's $30 a month for just one domain, or $99 a month, I think, for up to 5 domains, which, you know, when you're running a business is not that much of an expense. If you guys saw my bills for all the software I pay for, it's nuts. But if you're starting out, $30 a month is, you know, that's nothing to laugh at, basically. So another one I would recommend is SiteGround. It's not one that I've used before, but it is one that I've done quite a bit of research on, because I'm thinking about moving some of my subdomains and other things to that, because it is a little cheaper. It still has a lot of the same security features, yeah, I think a couple of my friends have used it and have had really really good results. So you can check those out as well. But if neither of those float your boat, just search for managed WordPress hosting, and you can find some really good companies to do your own research. The thing you want to avoid is when you're looking at like the wholesale companies or like the economy companies, where, you know, hosting's really cheap. Yes, you can buy add-on packages for premium, you know, security and bandwidth and da-da-da-da-da. But I find that when you're doing all of those different add-ons, it's just, when they're nickeling and diming you like that, it just doesn't make me feel very good about the company themselves, because I feel like they're not being fully transparent about things. It's like, if I have to pay extra for those things, then, you know, why aren't they built in from the get-go? Does that mean that my site is not secure because I don't have your security features, that kind of thing? I would much rather go with an all-in-one system that I know is going to be quality. My philosophy is like, do it right the first time. You know, pay the premium to feel confident in the service you're going to get. That's just me. So, you know, if that's not your philosophy, totally cool. I'm just kind of giving you my personal opinion and what I do, just in case it's helpful for you. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Cool. So no other questions are coming in. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's presentation. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the 14th. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and we will talk soon. Say bye to Gavin, and have a great week. Bye, everyone.